Well, hey, welcome to A Valid Answer with Scott and Marshall. That's right. We have our capitalist conservative pastor and a socialist liberal atheist. Marshall, how you doing over there on the left coast?
I'm doing all right. How are you doing?
Doing good, doing busy, having a good Sunday. Got to MC at our church services at our Northwest campus, so doing really good. Send to page. Sorry, sharing the page, getting the stuff, just taken care of right here. Getting that out, and we're good to go. Shared to page. So a lot of stuff in the news, huh?
Yeah, well, after yesterday's shooting, I think I texted you
Wait,
and
sorry,
said,
which one?
yeah, exactly. The one in El Paso. I think I texted you and said, I think we're talking about guns today.
Yeah.
And yes. And then last night, there was another one. I want to give a quick shout out to Michael and Carrie. Thank you for coming on. Hello, Scott.
Oh,
Um,
good. Gotten
and
some
so,
people watching already.
yeah, so apparently there were two. Um, and about I think 29 or 30 people altogether in terms of fatalities.
Yeah.
Probably about another 30 or 40 between the two locations injured. The shooter in El Paso was taken into custody, as people know. It's pretty much confirmed he was a white nationalist.
Yeah. Seemed pretty clear.
Um, and then the one in Dayton, his motives are a little unclear at this time. Nobody's quite sure. Um, he was killed within 1 minute of starting the shooting because police were on hand. So that's perhaps the good thing, that he was stopped before he could have done a lot more damage. He had a 100 round drum magazine
In what kind
for
of weapon?
his.
I haven't heard very much on that one. I barely heard that. I barely heard about it this morning. And I've been at work and I haven't really been able to research that one. I know that the one up in Gilroy had what they called an AK variant. The one in at least by the pictures at El Paso looked like the same, an AK variant.
Mhm.
And what about this one? I have not heard anything about this one. What have you seen or heard about this one?
I'm not sure. I thought I recall that it was an AR-15, but it could have
Gotcha.
been anything that would accept a 100 round drum
Well,
magazine.
well, I
So
mean, again, it's a semi-automatic AR-15 style will accept whatever mag is made for it. So I mean,
mhm,
it's
mhm,
not like the gun is designed in any way to accept or not accept large mags.
mhm.
So
So today we
Michael is here just to tell Marshall he's wrong. So okay,
so I think today, one of the things, we had a little bit of a pregame show, you and I,
yeah,
and I think we kind of agreed we're going to stay away from the the offhanded remarks that'll take us off track. The stuff like, well,
we'll do our best.
yeah, what about other countries? What about cars? What about this or that?
That's not really what this discussion is about.
Right, right. And those are important things to discuss in their own time and place. But within the context of this discussion, the question that I want to put to you, Scott, is how do we stop mass shootings in America? In your opinion, how the heck do we address this problem? And in the pregame, we also talked about our opinions on firearm ownership. We also talked about concealed carry.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know if you want to start with concealed carry and kind of talk about that first. Uh,
Yeah. Well, let's get it out of the way before any of
sure,
these come up. Do we have a problem of mass shootings in the United States?
absolutely.
Yes.
If there's one, it's a problem.
We
That's a no-brainer.
you and I can agree on that.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah.
are several of the recent ones? Can we condone white supremacy and white nationalism in it just outright? Yes. Can we condone white nationalism?
No,
Sorry,
we
condemn.
condemn it. We
Condemn.
condemn it. Yes. Condemn.
Sorry. Let's make sure.
Yes.
As I'm trying to be clear and have clarity, I use the wrong word. Can we condemn white
Yes.
nationalism? Yes, we can condemn white nationalism, white supremacy. We can condemn those things. Obviously, it seems like those are obvious things that should go without being said. But I want to start off our talk by saying them, so that there is no confusion on where you and I stand on these
And
things.
there's a lot of blaming Trump going on, and I'm not gonna argue whether or not Trump has a role in this. I think you can make the case that he said some stuff that have been picked up and quoted by some of these shooters. But I don't want to go there,
Right.
just like arguing about cars or what's happening in this country overseas or whatever. I just want to stay focused on the mass shooting issue right now. And in those things, I think they're valid topics, but not within the scope of today's discussion.
Yeah, not what we're talking about right now. And this is going to be I hope this is going to be eye opening for everybody, and I hope that because I've kind of been in a daze. Honestly, I've kind of been in a daze in the past 12 to 24 hours since the news of the El Paso shooting. And especially coming up this morning, waking up and finding out that there was it's like we have Gilroy earlier this week, and then there's that one. And I just found myself in a daze, honestly, of like, I don't know that this is solvable in the right way. And what I mean by the right way, you remember something that I had said. You quoted me in one of your Facebook posts. So that I really, people are always saying, we have to do something. We have to do something. Look at this. We have to do something. And I keep saying, no, we have to do the right thing, because just doing something doesn't accomplish it. Doesn't fix the problem. You can easily say, let's do something. And then you did something. You say, look, I did something and you guys can be proud of me. Vote for me because I did something. It doesn't, and it's ridiculous because it doesn't matter if what you did actually helped. You just get to stand there and say, I did something. So I've always made this point of like, no, because everybody says we have to do something. Like, no, we don't have to do something. We have to do the right thing. And honestly, after today and after yesterday and even today, I am no longer convinced that it's possible to do the right thing. I don't know that can happen. I'm really depressed about this. I don't know that the right thing can be done. I think that now the only option that's going to be presented to us is something, and it's going to look like maybe it might help, but it's not going to actually be effective. But enough people will be able to stand up and say we did something, and they'll get elected, and we really won't fix people, because the problem obviously is people. The problem is because there's 100 million legal gun owners in the United States, over 350 million legally owned guns in the United States that are not killing people in mass shootings. That's a fact. So there's a problem with people misusing the tool, and you would say they're using the tool to how it's supposed to be. I would say it's designed that the firearm is designed to defend you against an enemy. I don't believe it's designed to massively kill innocent people, but that's going to be a semantic thing. So I get what you're saying, and I'm not going to negate that. But I feel that there's over 100 million responsible gun owners who are not doing anything wrong. There's over 350 million guns in America that are not being used in the wrong way. But that being said, I don't know that we can do the right thing, which is fix the person, fix the people. I think the problem is we have a moral decay of people. And I don't believe that this country is willing to take the steps necessary to turn around that moral decay. So all that can be done really is to just try to stop the bleeding as much as possible by removing the tools from the people who are morally depraved. I don't feel that the right thing can be done. I don't think that this country is ready to make the change that has to happen to help fix people and help people get right, honestly.
Well, this is a bit of a surprise to hear you say this, Scott, because
Well, no, don't get me wrong. This is not what I want. I just don't think it's possible to get what I want anymore. I still have to fight for it. I still have to say this is what should happen. I don't have any hope that it will.
Well, I've been saying this for some time now, that the people who are very passionate about their right to keep and bear arms are the ones who really need to show leadership right now, and they need to come up with a proposal that grants some sort of increase in public safety, whatever it may be, but they need to be the first ones on the floor to sort of set the parameters of the discussion by making this first proposal. Because if they don't participate in the discussion right away, then what's going to happen in one or two administrations down the line is you're going to see a massive shift to the left on this issue.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know how that's going to turn out for anyone, or especially for the people who appreciate the right to keep and bear arms. So I really think that the pro-gun folks, the people who are the most staunch supporters of the Second Amendment, they need to show leadership here right now. And I'm looking for that. I'm waiting for that. I hope it happens. But doing nothing is no longer an option. And if they don't show leadership, somebody else is going to show leadership 1 or 2 administrations down the road, and they're not going to like it.
Josh Gunderson says right here, he just posted, I'm reminded of the machine gun range in Nevada. If I want to go shoot them, I can, but they're on lockdown otherwise. That's great. That's great if this was about, Josh, if this was about, hey, let's go have fun and go shoot guns. No, this is about defending yourself. This is about having a tool to defend yourself against someone who's evil. I still staunchly believe that as a human being, you have a right to have the tools to defend yourself. It's not about, I'm not trying to make an argument about, well, we just want to have guns to be able to play and be able to, and well, yeah, of course, we'll just store it over there in that gun show area and you can go over there to use it. This is not an entertainment thing. This is not a recreation thing. This is, I believe in gun ownership so that people have the tools necessary to defend themselves against evil. It equalizes the parties. It equalizes the evil to the good, because evil is always going to exist and people are always going to try to take what isn't theirs. People are always going to try to assault other people and people are always going to try to kill other people. And the bad guys will always find a way to get a hold of weapons. Marshall, even you have talked about this a little bit before about how in a revolution, there'll be no shortage of weapons. Bad guys will find weapons. They will find weapons no matter what. That always is going to be a thing. It's whether or not you've left the good guys, the people, the innocent people, to be able to defend themselves against that. And whether or not the bad guys ultimately is your government, a tyrannical government or whatever, I am still on the side of, you need to have access. It's a human right to have access to the tools to defend yourself against evil, defend yourself and your family against what might come to deprive you of your life or your property, or your life, your liberty, or your property. You should be able to have the tools necessary to defend yourself. So this is not about entertainment. This is not about recreation. This is not about, well, I want to have this to go sporting. This is about my argument is about having the tools necessary to defend yourself in your home. So that's where I'm coming at it from.
What about concealed carry? Doesn't concealed carry satisfy that? I mean, just to briefly talk about concealed carry, one of the things that the data demonstrates on concealed carry is that where there are high rates of concealed carry, you also have a decreased violent crime. And it makes sense because the criminals don't know who is armed. And as a result, they're a little bit more reluctant, perhaps, to do crimes. The problem, of course, with concealed carry is that it's highly discretionary, that it oftentimes takes a sheriff or someone to sign off on the permit or what have you.
It's very discretionary.
And there's a lot of jurisdictions that simply won't do that. So
I think we're moving it in the right direction with what Trump is trying to do right now and make reciprocity across the states. Just like a driver's license, if you have a license to carry in one state, it's valid in all other states. I think that's a very good thing for us to be moving towards, because there's so many people who, I mean, having a permit to carry a concealed weapon does you no good if where you're going does not allow you to carry a concealed weapon or doesn't honor the permit. Mm-hmm. And that's even true in the state that you have your permit. There's so many buildings and so many places where it's restricted, where you can't carry here, you can't have it there, you can't even have it in your car if you come on this premises. And it's like, well, then I can't even leave. Basically, if in my travels today I have to go here and stop at a school to pick up my kid on the way home, then basically I would have to leave my gun at home, because I can't have it with me all day if I'm going to stop by the school to pick up my kid. And that's the way it is in California right now. Like right now, someone could have the legal license to carry a concealed weapon, but if they have to go to the school to pick up their kid, they cannot even have it in their car, locked up in their car to pick up their kid. And that's ridiculous.
What does it take to get a concealed carry license?
It's different in all kinds of places. There is a class, an 8-hour class you have to take that costs, it's under $100 usually, right around $100 for the class. The actual license itself is like $30 or $40. It has to be renewed every 2 years. You have to qualify in shooting as part of the class, but it's 7 feet and like 20 feet. It's like nothing. You should be able to hit a standard silhouette target in those. Just about anybody can, and just about anybody does who takes the classes. But the biggest thing is getting approved. At least here in California, you have to get approved by the either the city police commissioner or the county sheriff. And getting it through the city is usually pretty difficult. Historically, in Kern County, the county sheriff has been fairly. I don't want to say they certainly don't rubber stamp it. You have to have some good legitimate reasons. You know, you deposit large amounts of cash. You travel alone or work alone at night or anything like that. But just or there's been threats against you, anything like that. But just saying, well, I want to feel safer and I want to be able to carry a gun. Typically, they won't. You have to have some kind of compelling reason. Now you go out of Kern County, you try to get a concealed weapons, permit in like San Francisco or Los Angeles, and you basically, I mean, if you're a rich, famous person and you're in with the politicians, they'll get it for you. So as long as you're connected, you could probably get one. Just about every politician in San Francisco, has one, or their security guards have one, but they don't want it for the rest of the people. It's good enough for them, but they don't want it for everybody else.
What about, don't pistols satisfy the need to be able to protect yourself? Would not a higher power firearm like an AR-15 or something, perhaps, or an AK-47 with a higher muzzle velocity and a larger round, wouldn't that punch through the walls to the next house or something?
Yeah, any type of high caliber rifle or even high caliber pistol round. We're talking, magnums, 44 magnums, maybe 357. You get smaller than that, they usually won't go through too many walls. I mean, unless you hit like a gap where it's just hitting, through the drywall. But a rifle round, a high powered rifle round, even a medium caliber rifle round like a 223 would go through several walls without a problem. They'll go through. I know for sure out one time my dad shot one through a mag rim. So, I mean, it just drilled a hole right through a, solid, whatever it is, magnesium, whatever the rim is made out of. There was junk out there or something like that and shot through them. So they'll drill a hole right through just about anything. So yeah, home defense, no, not those high powered weapons. I would say easily a pistol, shotgun is definitely the best deterrent. And best defense. I mean, it typically will not go through a house wall. It's got a nice spread, so you don't have to be as accurate. You can point it in the general direction, and a lot of times just the sound of the racking of the shotgun will drive people away. There's just something kind of terrifying about the sound of a shotgun. So yeah. And
so should that be where the efforts are?
Quite honestly, that's where I'm making my stand right now. If there was any adjustment that's happened over this weekend in my position, it's a slight adjustment. You and I talked about it. Maybe we even talked about it with Josh Gunderson off the air when a couple weeks ago when we were all over at the coast. But just the idea of, again, I believe constitutionally, even beyond the Constitution, I believe that our Constitution does not create, but recognizes rights that human beings should have. And I'm still going to stand on that a human being should have a right to have the tool that they need to defend themselves. And I think that a reasonable tool to defend oneself would be a pistol of some kind and a shotgun. I think that anybody who has a clean criminal record, who is an adult, I think any adult with a clean criminal record should be able to buy a handgun or a shotgun, no restrictions. Like they can go and do that. That there's no restrictions on the pistol they can buy, no restrictions on the shotgun they can buy. Obviously, well, not obviously, but I also believe that anything that's automatic should be restricted. That I believe that it's too much for the average person to have, but I think that any person should be able to go and buy a shotgun or a handgun for self-defense. And the only restriction being obviously they got to pass a background check. Like there's no criminal record or anything like that. Yep.
But what about training? Before I hand a pistol to an 18-year-old, I would at a minimum want some kind of education or training. And I don't even know if I'd want to hand a pistol to an 18-year-old. I don't know what smoking and drinking age are. I think they're 21.
Yeah.
Smoking might be 18. I honestly don't know. It's been a long time, and I know the laws have changed.
Well, again, as soon as someone is able to be responsible for themselves, they should be able to have the ability to defend themselves. If my son is able to be responsible for himself and move out and live on his own, I want him to be able, as he's living alone, to have the tool necessary to defend himself. For him to have to live alone for 3 years before he can, have the right to be able to defend himself, I don't think is fair. If you're saying this person is old enough to be an adult and be legally responsible for themselves, then they should be able to be legally protect themselves. No, for the most part, like I said, I don't believe that. I think the only restrictions should be age of consent, a legal adult, and a clean criminal record. That I believe that beyond the handgun and the shotgun, I think we can start looking into restrictions and tests that someone must pass and maintain. And this is something new for me. This is something that you've never heard from me before, Marshall. But I am looking at that is a potential thing that possibly might need to happen. That anything beyond a pistol and a shotgun should possibly require some sort of restriction, some sort of test. I may even go so far as having tiers, having certain tiers. Because again, I don't believe in treating 100 million law-abiding citizens like criminals. I don't believe in saying, you know what? You're 60 years old, you're 50 years old, you've owned a gun, you've owned several guns, you've owned 20 guns, 30 guns, 50 guns for the past 40 or 50 years, but you know what? We just don't trust you with a gun anymore. That's ridiculous. That, you know what I mean? Like, they've done nothing wrong their whole life, and suddenly we're just going to say, you know what? Actually, you can't be trusted with that.
But why not have a person then? I mean, if you grew up around firearms, you should be able to pass a simple exam. I'm going to say that.
But hold on. Before you go there, should we have any exam and any test for someone to pass to vote? Or is that a fundamental right that they have the right to make a stupid decision and put the wrong person in office because of their ineptitude? Or do you want them, or should we have a rule that you have to pass a certain test? You got to be able to pass, so you understand. You have to pass an English test, so you understand what the ballot says. You have to understand. You have to pass a language comprehension test and to show. And you have to pass a short history test, so you know the history of the position that's being. Do you think that should be required for someone to vote?
Well, I think that's a little bit of false equivalence because it's different.
Hold on. The consequences are different. I understand, but no. But I understand the consequences are different. But we're still dealing with a fundamental right. As soon as you put any restriction, as soon as you put a caveat, you have to pass this test in order to obtain this fundamental right. I believe it's going down the wrong road. There is a test to voting. You have to be a citizen. You have to be 18, and you have to live in the jurisdiction voting. Right. And that's what I said. You got to be 18. You got to be clear of a criminal record.
On election day or on an absentee ballot. There's all kinds of restrictions.
Yes, but they're not. But you don't have to pass a competency test to vote. That's what you're talking about. That's what you're talking about.
Yeah, I get that.
I understand. But I understand the consequences are different, but the idea is the same. As soon as you put a competency test that someone has to pass in order to gain a right, you have a problem there. You have a problem there as saying, if you're not competent in this area, then you don't get this right. There's a big problem with that. I think that's the compromise that has to happen on both sides. I think the compromise has to be, you are guaranteed this right as long as you're 18, as long as you're, a citizen, you're 18. We put those on there. You have to be a U.S. citizen. You have to be, 18 years old. You have to be no criminal background record, so you can do a check. You get that? Okay, cool. You can buy any pistol, that has to be able to have a stopping power. I mean, and again, a pistol is defined by having a pistol round. That's clearly defined. Now I have a pistol with a rifle round. It's not like, okay, well, it's a short, it would be, a definition of what a pistol round would be. but it would still have to be something of significant stopping power so that you can defend yourself. 45 caliber, 44 caliber would be, way up there in the maximum, maybe a 50 caliber, but I'm not sure if that's necessary because they make 50 caliber pistol rounds, not 50 cal. I'm not talking about 50 caliber rifle round.
It's the width.
Yeah. But again, I think as long as you meet the requirements of 18, citizen, and a clear criminal record, that you should not be deprived of the right to defend yourself, to have the tools to defend yourself. Now, above that, I'm willing at this point now to make the compromise, saying, now, if you want something beyond that, we need to prove some competency, maybe even prove. I mean, what if we go as far as saying, you have to be like, what if we reinstate a militia? What if we say, you have to be a card carrying member of an approved militia, whatever, that offers these trainings, gun club or whatever you want to call it, and then you can have these weapons. They don't have to be, you can have them in your home. You can have them here. Here's these qualifications that you can pass that almost all people who currently have these would easily pass. Mm-hmm. It's just anybody new coming in, because that's what's happening. How many of these mass shooters already own their guns?
Yeah, they're kids and they just buy them.
Well, even the Las Vegas guy, he had just recently bought those. He was an older, he's in 50s or 60s, but most of the time they're buying the guns to go do this, and that's what we're trying to stop. We're trying to stop people buying guns to go do mass shootings, because the 100 million people who already have them aren't going around doing mass shootings.
Yeah, well, I think that's a logical compromise. That's something that I could agree with. I've always been a fan of the whole gun club thing, because then the gun club, which is private, it's not necessarily government, but the gun club would regulate you and certify you. We would have some difference of opinion on whether the firearms have to be stored at the gun club or whether or not you're allowed to take them home.
Well, no, that would be very clear. You would keep them. It's your property. You have it. That's not a compromise on my part at all. That's ridiculous. That's thinking that, oh, well, this is, whatever we're going to, you can have this, but we're going to regulate it over to this area here. And no, you pass this, you own it. You are responsible for it. Cause that's the thing. If we're going to go into what's wrong, why this is happening, because our nation as a whole, our culture as a whole, has rejected responsibility, individual responsibility. Our culture has rejected individual responsibility and has left everything to be controlled by somebody else. That our culture, for the most part, would rather have their safety and security than their independence. We constantly see people making this decision, and with that, removing sense of responsibility. And again, I'm not bringing this into the abortion debate, but that's part of it that ties in for me, that you don't accept responsibility for your actions and you want to make somebody else pay for it. That's one of the things. You made a mistake of, you lost your, whatever it is, you did drugs and lost your job, and now you want the state to keep your habit going. Our culture is so averse to responsibility, and that's what the problem is that people have walked away from responsibility. This has happened over the past 40, 50 years of people just turning away from personal responsibility. And
well, one of the problems is, I think if we had firearms as ubiquitous in the United States, in other countries, if other countries, let's say England, France, Germany, Russia, China, you name it, if any other country had the rates of firearm ownership that we have here in the United States, I think they would see just about as much violence as we see here. Certainly you see things like knife violence in other countries. Yeah. There are sometimes bombings. People are just going to do what people are going to do. The problem with technology...
Evil existed long before guns.
Right. The problem with technology is it makes being evil more efficient.
But it also makes being good more efficient.
Yes, it does. Yes, it makes everything. I agree with you there. The catch is, if you can't change the people, and we've been trying to change the people forever, and I don't know that we're ever really going to ever accomplish that. So you then have to either modify the technology or modify access to it. And that's what the laws in the United States are doing. We're both modifying technology by saying, well, you can only have a magazine of so much capacity. And we're also trying to modify the access by saying only certain people can have access to a firearm. And that's what we're trying to do. And I think we need to do more on all three fronts. And if we had firearms as ubiquitous in other countries as we have them here in the United States, I think this would be a global phenomenon, though.
Yeah.
So I think we agree on that.
Yeah, and again, I'm going to take it a step further. I believe I know the cause of this. I think there's correlation that relates to it, because again, these guns are not new. This technology is not new. It's not like suddenly in the last 20 years, suddenly people had access to semi-automatic rifles. People had access to semi-automatic rifles since they were invented. All right. The people in the United States, people who live in the United States have had access to high-powered semi-automatic rifles since the 30s and 40s. Mm-hmm. This is not new, but we haven't seen mass shootings like this among innocent people. Yeah, there's always been like gang on gang type stuff to where it's basically warfare among themselves. But this type of random going out and just randomly shooting people to randomly shoot people. Like, again, we go back to the 1920s, 1930s. We go back to like the gangland stuff and going like that. Yes, innocent people were dying, but the gangs weren't just going out killing innocent people. The gangs were fighting against police officers. They were fighting against other gangs. They were carrying on their own war, and people were dying as collateral. I'm talking about recently. This is a new phenomenon. Even though the technology hasn't changed, the access to technology hasn't changed, the people have. This is something that has happened recently in a change of people, not a change of technology, not a change of access. This has happened because the people have changed. You know what else? I noticed that you like to point out that the 80s showed a really big increase in the destructiveness of capitalism. Yes, that a lot of safeguards that were put in were rolled back in the 80s, and capitalism kind of climbed. And race relations that were on the increase in the 50s and 60s. Like, it was on an upward scale of, hey, it is getting better. They're getting the vote. All this, and all of a sudden in the 70s, 80s, it declined again. It fell back, and you're having the segregation again of, black families living in black neighborhoods, and the whole thing, even to the point where we're right now, people want safe spaces and segregation. They want colleges want to have black only graduations so that they have a safe space so the graduate. It's like we've gone completely backwards. But all of these changes happen right around the same time. Right around the same generation, between the 60s and the 80s. And I believe there is a correlation to this. It is the decline of personal responsibility and the decline of, morality in our nation. And I believe it began when it said, we don't want God in our schools. We don't want God in our country. I believe it began in the early 1960s when we said, we're not going to pray in school anymore. We're not going to talk about that with kids. We're not going to instill any type of godly morals with our children in school as part of their education. That's the parents' job. As a nation, we declared as a nation, we are turning our back on God. And as a pastor, I believe that is where all of these problems began. And I believe that is the solution to the problems, is to go back to that. But I do not believe that our nation will do that. That is where I'm at right now. I know the solution to all of this is to bring our nation back to a godly nation, is to put focus. Every person is to put focus back on God, to be a better person, to be a better Christian, to turn back to God. That is the answer. I know that in my heart. I know that's where we need to go, but I also know that is just simply not what is going to happen. That I have lost hope that our nation can do that. And at that point, I don't believe that the people can change. And I know that's kind of hopeless. And I know that's kind of, coming from a pastor, that's tough. It's still my job as a pastor to reach individuals, as it always has been. But recently, in the past 30 or 40 years, talking to people to better themselves and talking to people about God and become a better person is now considered countercultural. That everything that Christians believe, almost everything that Christians believe and what pastors are trying to teach, is against our culture. Our culture is against it. Our culture doesn't want God. Our culture has rejected God. And I don't believe that our culture has rejected God and now God is punishing our nation. No, I don't believe that. God doesn't operate that way. I think our nation has rejected God and no longer has the foundation, the moral foundation of the individuals that it used to have, because it's not a priority anymore. And that's where we are right now. That is the solution that I don't think can happen as a nation. I'm hoping that it can happen for individuals, and that's why I do what I do. But we've lost responsibility. We've lost responsibility for ourselves. We've lost our moral center because all of this existed before. The change is in the people. The change is in the people. This is recent.
You realize that religion has been the cause of endless warfare.
We're not even going to go into that. That's you bringing up. We're going to talk about how cars are just as much. No, I'm talking about what religion does to. Hold on. No, hold on.
All over the place.
No,
because that's plastered everywhere now. We just did an episode 2 months ago about "In God We Trust."
Yeah.
In our hometown, and
our culture has rejected God. Our culture has rejected God. I'm not talking about even the laws or I was saying the beginning of it, not necessarily saying that we've made laws in church and state. I'm not what I'm talking about. I'm saying our culture has rejected God and our culture has rejected morality.
Don't we have a fundamental right to choose our religion and our
morals?
And
Absolutely. This is the consequence of that.
Mm-hmm.
So now we have to now lose our freedoms because we have chosen immorality. And now we have to lose our freedoms. That's what it is. Because here's the thing. The system that the founders set up of individual freedom is based on the idea of also individual responsibility, and it's also based on the good of the individual person. And it's even a quote from one of the founders. I want to say it was George Washington, but basically it was a quote that said, this will work, but it only works when the individuals maintain a morality, and he believed it was a godly morality. If you needed the Bible, you needed this, and without a moral center, individual freedom and individual responsibility it's not going to work. So I'm almost to the point where I'm afraid that our future is doomed. Right now, our future is doomed because of moral decay. It is doomed to be controlled.
You realize that prisons are filled with Christians, right?
Again,
that's are underrepresented as a percentage.
Come on, that's not what I'm talking about. That's not even what I'm talking about. You know what I'm talking about. You know what I'm talking about.
I know, but you're saying that
our culture has rejected God, and that's why we are where we are. Our culture has rejected God.
Okay, so given that, how do we move to a place where we develop or rediscover or find some kind of morality in a society, in a civilization where belief in God, certainly the Judeo-Christian God, is becoming more of a stretch for people?
I believe that you are going to find out that it can't. As much as you like to think that it can, I think you're going to find out that it can't. You keep trying to make the argument that hey, you can be moral without a belief in God. I think you're going to find out that you can't. That you go, it's not the tool, because you got London, you got England, you have people living in terror in London, afraid of being stabbed. They got rid of all the guns, but they didn't change the people. And now people are carrying knives and they're stabbing. Okay, well, it's not killing as many people. Okay, so I guess that's a win. All right, cool. You're not killing as many people, but people still live in terror, worried about being stabbed around the next corner. Because you didn't change people. You took away one tool. So now they're doing knife buyback programs in London. They're doing turn in your knives.
Yeah.
It's just as ridiculous as saying turn in your guns, because you're still trying to deal with the tool and not change the people. And our culture is getting what this culture said it wanted, which is independence from God. We want to be free from God. We want to be free from an external morality, and we're going to set our own morality. And I think that you are going to find out that does not work among humans.
Well, it's my understanding that morality is largely grounded in, empathy, that empathy is sort of the glue that holds civilization together. It's the idea that you're not going to do to other people what you don't want done to you. And when you empathize with others, something that a lot of mass shooters have a real hard time doing, you're much less likely to do crimes or to do things that you're much less likely to perpetuate evil. And so I really think we need to teach empathy. We need to teach ethics, especially at a young age. So on one level, I definitely agree with you that we need to instruct and develop some sort of ethical morality. And it needs to be taught from a very young age, probably even from preschool on. although I would object that it should be tied to any particular religious faith, because it's very hard for people to believe in certain, religious dogma. It's very hard for me to personally believe in the Judeo-Christian God.
Mm-hmm.
I don't have an issue with most of the moral code of Christianity, and I can adhere to it, and I can even acknowledge that it is.
And you quite possibly adhere to it better than some Christians. So let's just throw that out there.
And I can acknowledge that it's the basis of much of American society as we know it today. But I would have a real hard time saying that we're going to deliver Judeo-Christian instruction in schools.
I understand that.
Yeah.
Even though I believe that's what's needed, even though I believe you can even see an argument for that turning away from God has not really led us that well as a society.
Well, I don't know, because at one time when Christianity was commonplace in society, we also practiced slavery.
Right. And all of those things were corrected while we were still teaching church, while we were still teaching God in schools, while we still had prayer, while we still were, those things happened. We were on the incline while we were still doing that. Those changes were being made while there were godly people.
I think
while society still embraced a godly outlook, those things were on the incline already.
I think Christians
ended slavery in England.
Yes, and they spearheaded the abolition movement in the United States. But Christians were also the slavers.
But again, it progressed. It's getting worse. We're on the decline. Race relations is on the decline. It was going good. It was going well. It was on the way up. It was on the way up, and it stalled and came down.
There had been some gradual progression. I'll grant you that, but I don't think we ever arrived. I think we have a long way to go.
No, I never said we arrived. I said we were on the incline.
Be clear about that.
Yeah, I never said we arrived. I said we were on the incline. And then we turned away from God as a nation, and we have been declining since.
So
that's what I'm talking about. Is moral decay, and our people are bad.
The framework of a solution, and of course, the devil is in the details.
Oh yeah,
but we at least have the framework of a solution. And again, I've said this many times, that any two reasonable individuals, even from opposite ends of the political spectrum, could sit down over a pizza and a beer, and given 1 or 2 hours and a notepad, can sketch out the broad strokes of a solution for most of our society's problems, which baffles me why we have professional legislators who are paid $500,000 a year.
Because that's not actually their job.
Yeah, and they can't solve problems. All they can do is perpetuate existing ones. But I think where we agree is there needs to be some sort of moral education in the United States that begins at the pre-K level and continues all the way through. And there needs to be ethics taught. There needs to be empathy taught. We also seem to agree that concealed
carry... Which all happens at church.
Well, it does.
Go to church. Go to church, people. There's your answer. Go to church.
People who are not believers, I'm not going to herd them into church.
Hold on. So you're not willing to get behind what could possibly be the best solution simply because, I don't believe in it, therefore I'm not willing to get behind it. Is that not already a system that's established to point people towards morality, empathy? Isn't there already a great system established that if we encourage people to be part of this system, it can help make them better, moral, and empathetic? Is that not already a system, but you won't be part of it?
I think there's a lot of critiques that can be made when you get specific about a particular deity or...
That's fine, but okay, but so what? Can we agree that it makes people better? Can we agree that going to church
ideally, yes,
makes people more empathetic and giving, right?
Yes, ideally that's
why can't we get behind it even though you can't agree on which one might be right? Why can't you simply get behind the idea, Marshall?
I am behind the idea. I'm just saying it should probably be secular. But
I'm saying you want to create a new system. There's a system that's already working. Why don't you point more people to it?
Because
I'm saying that's the solution. Make yourself better. Go to church, people. Go to church. That's the answer.
yeah, okay, I'm not going to compel anyone to accept a particular religious persuasion.
At this point, I don't care if you do or not. Just still go to church anyway. I think you'll learn plenty whether or not you believe in the deity. Go to church anyway.
Mm-hmm.
Go to church anyway. I think that's the answer.
Yeah. I think we agree on improving rates of concealed carry because, again, the scientific data, regardless of whether we like it or not, seems to suggest that higher rates of concealed carry correlate with decreased crime. Correlation is not causation, but I'm willing to go ahead and take a step on that front and see what happens. Obviously, we need to monitor all of this scientifically and change policy in accord with the data as time goes by. And I think we all agree that there needs to be some sort of better oversight for people who are purchasing, high power firearms, like AK-47s and maybe AR-15s and stuff like that.
Again, just to clarify something that Josh said earlier, or maybe it was Michael. I think it was Michael that said it earlier. He's all AK-47s are illegal. You can't buy them. Obviously, an M16 is illegal. You can't buy an M16. You can't buy an M4. The AR-15 is the civilian, non-fully automatic version. I don't know that there is a designated firearm for the AK variant. So when you say AK-47, no, we're not talking about fully automatic ones, but there isn't a civilian version of the AK-47. There isn't a named, like the AR-15 is a named alternative to the M16. So when we say AK-47s, yes, we are talking about the semi-automatic variants of them that cannot be fired fully automatically. But I just wanted to clarify that. Just again, semantics. Important.
Michael Angelo Loncello had a question. What's the difference between secular and religious ethics and power? Certainly there's some belief involved, and I don't think you can compel people to believe anything in particular. Otherwise, if the ethics are grounded in things like empathy and do unto others as you would have done unto you.
Quote in the Bible, thank you.
Or don't do unto others as you would not have them do unto you, which is essentially quoting the Buddha. Mm-hmm. But, it's still the golden rule. Either way you slice it. And I don't have an issue with teaching people the golden rule. I think that's fine.
Then I'll see you at church next week.
It's a long drive, Scott.
But it's worth it, isn't it? If it saves one life, right?
Well, probably. I'm telling you,
just throwing that back in you.
You need to move out here. You need to move out here and start a church out here, and I'll help you with that.
All right, man. Well, it's been 47 minutes. I think this was actually a very productive talk. I'm sorry we couldn't, again, respond to everybody on there, but it was great participation, everybody. Thank you so much for everybody who joined in on the conversation. Please continue having those discussions online or once we're off and having those discussions on Facebook. You can catch us here Sundays at 5 o'clock. Kerncast.com, A Valid Answer on Facebook. Again, really appreciate everybody for joining in. Marshall, any last words?
Last words? No. Again, thank you.
I got one.
Go ahead.
No, you go ahead. Otherwise,
I just want to say thank you for a good, cool, carefully considered, thoughtful discussion that stayed on topic. I appreciate that.
Absolutely. And I just have to close with go to church, man. That's my job.
All right,
I have to say it. All right. See you guys. Bye.
All right. Thank you. Bye-bye.